All right, so welcome to Scrapbook Live. I am Megan Jax. Today is October 11th, and I have a layout for you today. This is one that I created last October, or it was late summer. I created it for an Australian advisor, Meggan who has a CM Pink Day. She does a fundraising crop day in Australia, and they raise money for breast cancer research. And so she's asked me for the past few years to create a layout. I created this one last year, and I had a few people, it must have made its way to Pinterest, and I had a few people asking me how to create it. So I kind of like saved it away. I said, well, maybe we'll do a video or Scrapbook Live with it, but it's October, it's Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and I thought this would be a fantastic one to do. So even though I'm not doing I'm not using the breast cancer theme with the pinks and so forth, that's what this layout was created for. So maybe you'll have a layout that works for you, or some photos that would work for you to do in that same theme. But I'm going to be using the On the Farm collection. It just worked out well. There's a piece of paper I knew would do perfect for this technique. And so that's what I'm going to be using. If you've had a chance to get the handout, you'll find it. If you're on Facebook, you're going to see it in the post. There's a link to my blog that has the handout. If you are watching this on YouTube, you'll see a link in the description below where you can get that handout from my blog. I do know there is one mistake. I don't know how I didn't catch it. Normally I really try to go over these with a fine tooth comb. And now I'm like looking all over for where I even put the handout. This could be, hey, there it is. Oh, I was a little worried. I have one little change. I'll detail what that is before we get started. It's not anything that's significant. It's just one of the mats that needs to be adjusted. So I'll give you that detail, but we're going to go ahead. I'm going to shoot over here to my overhead camera and we'll get started. All right, so the change I want to tell you guys about is where it says you're going to trim a 4.5 by 6.5 inch mat. It should be a 4.5 by 5.5 inch mat. The one I'm referring to is this one here, and you can see it is obviously not 4 by 6 inches. It's actually a double mat for a 3.5 or 3 3/4 by 4 3/4 photo. There's a double mat. It has a thin cardstock piece around it, and then it shows that darker pink. You don't necessarily have to double mat your photo in that one. I just liked it because it pulled in that little bit of that paler pink with the darker going with that that pink or powerful and pink theme kit. So the key really to this one, the focal piece, is going to be this first piece of paper. That is the one that we're going to be cutting, and it's going to give us that flipped corner where we have the two different papers showing. I did this all from one piece of paper. You don't necessarily have to. You certainly could use a different piece of paper and just cut yourself the triangle. So if you really wanted to use a combo of papers that isn't a front and back, you could always just mix and match your pieces as you need to. On the farm papers, there is a piece of paper in here that I thought was so cute and I thought it would work perfect. And it is this tonal green. The back side is all of those farm veggies. Or garden veggies. It's not even farm, really. I mean, you can grow these in your backyard if you really want to. So we're going to be using, that's my focal sheet here. We are going to be cutting this, flipping our corner around to expose all those wonderful veggies. And then I'm going to come in with some other paper. I've got some hot fudge cardstock. I've got the tonal red. It's got chickens on it from that paper pack. Opposite side are the quilters, the quilt design. And my photos, I don't know if you saw my post this morning, but my photos are old. They are pictures of my oldest, Kevin, helping my mom in the garden at my parents' house. So my parents, after I moved, it was actually after I was married out of college, my parents built their dream house out on some property that my grandparents had owned. And so they moved out to the country. I was a small town girl, but they moved out to the country, not too far from where I was raised. But my mom has a wonderful garden out there. And this, I don't see much in the field, but everything. So this has to be towards the end of this season because there's really not much in the fields, but she probably had planted maybe a late crop of some things. I don't remember. I'm going to have to go back and look and see when exactly these photos were taken. I'm terrible about that. But I just have some fun ones here. There's a couple of them digging in the garden together. He's so excited about the scallions, onions, green onions that he's got, and so forth. So I've got my photos, and they work perfectly with this collection. So I'm going to set my photos aside for a moment. We are going to go ahead, take a peek at our directions. And one of the things about this particular piece or this particular design is if you are working with a directional paper, remember a directional paper is anything that has a very specific direction to it. This chicken paper is directional. You can see here as I'm holding it, the chickens are right side up. If I rotate it to the side, now my chickens are on their side, or they could be upside down. So I do have a bit of a direction to my veggie paper. And when I cut this and I measure this, I want to make sure I am doing it with the side of the paper that has a directional pattern to it. I want to make sure that side is facing up. If I were using my chicken paper for this part, I would go ahead and put it on my cutting mat with the chickens up so I can make sure the top of my paper is at the top of my cutting mat. My veggie paper, I say it's directional. They've honestly tossed everything on here kind of there are some pieces that are more directional than others. For me, the one that really, really stands out are the corn. You can see here, there's some corn, sweet corn. And to me, those really stand out as being directional because, I don't know, in my mind, if it's, especially these big pieces here, this to me looks upside down. That paper to me looks upside down, even though you could say, oh, here's this ear of corn that's right side up. But this more dominant piece of corn is upside down. And that's really what my eye is picking up on, is this pair of corn being upside down. Me being picky. So I do see a quick comment about the video being interrupted. If you are having difficulty with it, it could just be your connection or something with Facebook not being nice. Go out and come back into the live, and that should help. And because usually it's something on your individual end as compared to my feed going to Facebook, usually. Hopefully that's the case. All right, so I have established here that my corn has a direction to it. What I'm looking for is I'm looking for the corner that I want to use. Do I want to use this corner? My ear of corn is off to the side. They're not really upside down. This direction, my corn is upside down. I don't want that. It's mostly upside down, or this direction. And I think I'm going to use this side here. This is going to be my corner that will be exposed. So I want to make sure that this is the side I'm measuring from. I'm going to measure here. And I'm going to grab my pencil because I need to measure over 8.5 inches from the top left corner. Now, the thing to note here on the Creative Memories cutting mat, this corner right here, this upper left is not 0. That's actually 12. You can see 11. This is my 12-inch corner. I feel like I probably should take a Sharpie and write that on here, that this is 12, meaning 0 is over here. Now, the great thing about this is I can actually rotate this mat if I want to. I can leave my paper the way it is, and I can rotate it. So I'm going to rotate my mat. So this 0 point, let me see if I can grab just a quick Post-it note here. So I can write this on here so you guys know what I'm doing. This is 0 inches, right up in this corner, 0 inches. Over on this side is 12 inches. So when I want to measure 8.5 inches over, I have to think 8.5 minus 12 is 3.5. So I have to think about that. But if I just rotate my mat, I'm not going to rotate my paper. I'm going to leave my paper where it is. Rotate my mat so that that 0 is now in the corner where I need it to be 0. Now I can come over 8.5 inches and I'll be able to come down 8.5 inches. All right, so pay attention to where your 0 is. You can rotate your mat around, it doesn't matter. So I'm going to come over. Here's my 0. I'm going to come over here to 8.5 and make a mark with my pencil. It's a little hard to see on my paper because it's just got such a busy pattern. And I'm going to come down here to 8.5 inches. Now, you might be wondering, why am I choosing 8.5 inches? You could actually come up and do 8 inches. You could do 6 inches. It depends on how big of a corner piece you want. In my original layout here, you can see I wanted a pretty chunky bit of that dark pink to show, that heart paper. And I do want a decent amount of my vegetables to show. And the reason I went with 8.5 inches is because it is, if I take a 12-inch ruler, 8.5, the diagonal of an 8.5 inch square is 12 inches. So I will be able to come in here with one border strip, a sticker, a laser cut border. That is the max corner I can cut and still use one border element here. If I were to cut it 9 inches, oh, now I'm that 12, I'm longer than 12 inches. I could certainly come in, I could cut it 8 inches and I'll have a little bit hanging over. 8.5, the diagonal of an 8.5 inch square is right around 12 inches. So that's why I went with 12 inches or 8.5 inches. So I've got my 8.5 and my 8.5. I have made sure that my paper is the side up that I want. The top edge of my paper is here. So now I'm ready to cut. And I'm going to grab my trimmer and I need to feed in this corner and come in from corner to corner. And I made the lovely mistake of not, oh my goodness, this pattern is going to drive me nuts. I'm looking for I can't even see my pencil marks. All right. When that happens, oh, there it is. Yeah, it got hidden in the vine. I have cut these wrong before, and I don't even know if I made a pencil mark over here. 8.5, 8.5. I need one of those, you know, the flags that say sign here, or the little flags from Post-it note. I need to buy some of those with little arrows. Note to self, there's my mark. There's my mark. It at least just pinpoint me to where it is. And I'm going to come in here. I don't know that it matters. I'm going to go ahead and feed my paper in from this direction. I think it's going to work a little bit better. We are cutting really, yeah, it's definitely going to work feeding your paper in from the left side towards the right. And I'm going to come in here lining up my pencil mark there, my pencil mark here. Those little flags do help me find those pencil marks much quicker because this paper is got some pattern to it. And I'm going to go ahead and cut. One thing I did not mention, and I probably should have, the reason this paper works out really, really well for this is because the opposite side is non-directional. Okay, if you have two pieces of paper that are directional, you might have a little bit more of a problem with this layout. I would encourage you to use only one side of your paper being directional, because when you flip this paper over, it is not 100%. It really depends on the direction, whether they're both facing, you know, the same direction. You might end up having the backside be upside down. All right. So here we go. We've got our paper. There you can see how this is going to work. I'm going to have my veggies at the top. I've got this nice tonal green area that can really be where I put the bulk of my photos. Okay. So next up, I need to paper weld these two pieces together. Paper weld is one of my favorite techniques to be able to save paper. And to do that, I'm going to grab a scrap of paper. It can be white. I usually have just thin strips of pieces of paper. It doesn't matter too much. I thought I had a piece here, and now I definitely want to use a scrap. I'm just going to grab this scrap that's hanging out here, sticking out of my project folder. It's canary, that's fine. I'm going to make this about, you can go anywhere from 1/2 to 3/4 of an inch. 1/2 inch should be fine. I'm going to put some adhesive down the middle. And then I will use this strip to adhere the two pieces together. So I'm going to take that diagonal edge of the bottom piece and put that on here. So it's just overlapping about 1/2 of that adhesive. And then I'll come in and tug this paper, put this paper right up tight against that edge. This seam will be covered with stickers, so if it's not perfect, you should be able to get in there and get pretty tight. But if it's not perfect, that's okay. You're going to cover it up with stickers or border detail. These little triangles, you can see has a little bit that sticks out there. I'll cut that off with a pair of scissors. Okay. So now we've worked our way through, we've cut our paper, we've worked our way through step 1 where we've got those pieces welded back together. Now it's time to figure out our border detail. What are we going to do here? So one of the things that I had to keep in mind with this is that my original layout, I had the heart paper had a pattern to it, but it was a little more tonal than my veggies. My veggies, I mean, that's a pattern, right? That's a statement print. We got lots of colors. We've got a high contrast between the veggies and the white background. So I knew I wanted to use the barn and fence punch. I knew I probably needed to punch it in a darker color to really get it to pop and stand out. So I decided to go with hot fudge. So I am going to go ahead and punch with hot fudge. Punch myself the barn and fence border, and then I need to trim it off. This is an edge style punch, meaning it stays attached to the paper. So I need to cut it off to get basically just a separated border. And this, I'm going to go ahead and I'm punching it. My overall border is about 1 1/8 inch tall. I'm just giving myself, I can see here the bottom of my fence, and I'm just coming here, so maybe just a little bit more than 1/8 of an inch from the very bottom of the fence. This part really will be dependent on what border you're using. Maybe you're using a border sticker. I used a border punch in the original layout. I used the Infinity Heart border punch and then layered it with one of the stickers out of the theme pack. So I have my punch here, and you can see it does stand out pretty good. It's not too bad. But I thought it could stand out a little bit more. So what I decided to do is I'm going to back it. This is where I'm going to start to bring in that red. I'm going to back it with the chicken paper. I'm going to come in here, cut myself a strip of chicken paper, and just give myself a little bit of a red border behind it. So where I have in here, I talk about using the pink cardstock to make the mat. We make the heart icon at the top and we punch that border. I'm actually going to use the chicken paper for that. I do have to reconfigure the cuts because the chicken paper has a direction to it rather than using a piece of cardstock like I did in the original layout. If you're using cardstock, it doesn't matter which direction you do things because it's cardstock. If I had a piece of designer paper, like the back side of this is non-directional. It wouldn't matter which direction I was using this, but the pattern on this side is by far too much for the barns, and it really is too much to go against the veggies. So I want to use the chicken side. We don't really have a cardstock color that is this kind of rusty red. At least I don't. You may have some older stuff from Creative Memories that fits that bill, but I really didn't have anything that I felt met the rusty red color that I really wanted. So I'm going to go ahead and use this. I probably could have gone and gotten out some of the barn. Remember that was that summer texture pack, I think had a red barn. I probably could have used that. That might have been fun. It's a little less directional than the chickens because you don't care what direction barnwood goes. But anyway, we're going to stick with the chickens. I'm going to come in here and I am going to cut a 1 1/4 inch strip at the top. I'm actually going to cut it from the bottom, but regardless, my chickens are going the correct direction. They will not be going sideways. They will not be going upside down. You probably won't even notice that they're chickens, but I don't want to risk it just in case you can notice that they're chickens. I don't want to risk that you see an upside down chicken or a sideways chicken on my layout. All right, so there's the chicken. That is going to just go right on the edge there. And then I think what I'm going to do, I might wait to actually do this. Out of the summer border stickers, I think these are from last year, there was this little banner one that I thought might look really nice. It's just got the reds, the oranges, and the yellow. Might be nice right along there, but I don't know. I have not committed to it. The other option is if I really wanted to include a border sticker, I could just include the sunshine border. It was a bright sunny day, but I don't know yet. I might wait till I get everything together. I do know I'm sticking with this. So I'm going to grab my silicone mat, my repositionable adhesive, and I'm going to put some adhesive on the back of the barn, and I will stick it to the edge. I'm flush at the bottom, have a little bit of the red sticking out on top. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to use regular adhesive, the regular adhesive, and I'll tack that, I'll get that put into place. And this is just going to go right along the bottom edge where that seam is, that 45-degree angle. And I will cut off the micro. I like the regular size scissors. I will admit I use the regular size scissors probably more often than the micro tip. This is a longer cut than I want to make with that micro tip. I could probably also use my trimmer. All right, so there we go. Next up, I need to go ahead and make some mats. I'm pretty certain, but here again, I need to think about this. Since I pulled up this color into here and it's pretty much a statement color in there, do I want to go ahead and use my mats? I am going to reconfigure the photos a little bit. I showed horizontal photos in the sample. I need to rotate this whole thing so that it is vertical photos with this photo, the smaller photo being horizontal. Remember, my photos are going to look more like this. I'll have this picture at the top, these pictures at the bottom. I do have this cute one where he's just totally hanging his head. I'm not sure. I think it was just hard work, right? I mean, he's just realizing that gardening is hard work sometimes. He's got himself this cute little handheld hoe that was really, I don't know, kind of funny. So I may actually position these to be able to do a peekaboo pocket, and I can journal a little bit in here. I think on my original layout, I did have some overlap, which would kind of preclude sort of a flap from opening, but I could probably just have it so that the peekaboo still opens, and then I would just use a 4x6 journaling mat out of the, I could find a 4x6 journaling mat that would go really well in here. But I need to decide. I think I'm going to go ahead. Yep, I am going to use this chicken paper for the mat. So I need to cut a piece from here, again, keeping my chickens horizontal because my two photos are going to go on here horizontal, or my photos are going to be in vertical orientation. So my mat is going to be horizontal. So I need to come in here. I'm going to cut this at 6.5 inches. Come over here to 6.5 inches and trim. I need this piece to be 8 3/4 inch wide. I am making this piece right here, this 8 3/4 by 6 inch. It's a double mat. I've got a kind of a bent corner, so I'm going to rotate this to make sure my bent corner is not part of my mat. I'm going to come here to 8 3/4 and cut. This piece here becomes scrap. So there's those photos go here at the bottom. Now, I did see a question about the repositionable. Yeah, I think that the frequency of repositionable versus permanent tape, I do have a tendency to grab my repositionable tape more than my regular adhesive. Part of that is just because of habit, and I don't mind using repositionable to do bigger pieces on here. I think it holds just fine. But I am trying to work more just for even distribution of my overall use. I am starting to use regular adhesive a little bit more. I do know when I use repositionable, I have a tendency to put more on there rather than the smaller amount that I use for the regular adhesive. So if you're doing things like photo, bigger pieces of paper, and you know where you want them to go, like this is where it's going, using the regular adhesive is fine. You don't need, I have never really compared how much. I feel like I just use less. It's just naturally I just use less. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to use my regular adhesive. I am actually going to put this photo down here, knowing that this photo will be in a peekaboo pocket on top. I have found when I'm using regular adhesive, if I don't put any pressure on there, I have a little bit of ability to just kind of move things around. So I basically put both of these pictures on this mat, and I haven't put any pressure on them. I'm staying away from the corners where I put the adhesive, and I'm just touching in areas where I know there's no adhesive and getting them centered the way I want them to be. And then I will go ahead and push down. This should be about 1/4 inch all the way around. I'm not going to adhere this piece yet until I have all of my other pieces ready to go. And I see already that I need to make a change. I'm going to tell you why I'm going to make this change, because I probably am going to come in here and overlap. And you can see here, this picture is more zoomed in. And so if I put this picture here, the overlap is just going to cover up the space, like the yard, instead of covering up my mom's back there as much. It just doesn't make the page, things feel less crowded. So I'm just going to carefully remove this. And this photo is going to go down in its place. This photo will end up in a peekaboo pocket. It's got adhesive on the back, so I do need to be careful about that. I'm not sure which peekaboo pot, which mat I'm going to use out of the 4x6 mat pack. Otherwise, I would go ahead and just stick it to it. Okay, so then for this piece right here, I need to come up with a matting solution. Now, I'm not sure if I like, I'm not sure that I like that. It's not bad. I just feel like I want a little bit of yellow. I know I don't want a matte in the yellow. My mom is wearing a yellow shirt, so that yellow is coming in naturally from the photos. But I'm not sure if I like this, I'm not sure that I like this paper here. Largely because I don't think I'm able to make the quilt even all the way around my photo. And so it's going to look like some parts you're going to see a little bit more of the cream color showing through and other parts are going to be mostly red. So I don't think I'm going to use that particular one. I could look into my mats. Do I have a mat that I want to use? There's just this fun black and white kind of a wired. I'm not sure I like that either. Let me check out, maybe do I want to use my brown cardstock? I'm not sure. The other photo I need to incorporate is I got to incorporate this photo up here of him holding those scallion, the green onions. I'm going to hold off on this one right now. And this photo, there is, what other tonal papers? I have yellow, but like I said, I was thinking I was going to avoid using the yellow. But maybe it's fine. Maybe it's that nice pop of color. I do have a cardstock that is similar in color to that bright yellow. I could use, instead of cutting my designer paper, sometimes what I'll do is I'll come in and I'll just cut a piece of cardstock. I can use Buttercup, which is that bright yellow. And I think I'm going to do that because I have quite a bit of Buttercup versus cutting my designer paper. I mean, those are essentially the same color. And On the Farm is sold out, so I can't get more of it. So I'm going to go ahead. I am going to cut this yellow color for this this photo right here. So this is already trimmed down to 3 3/4 by 4 3/4. So it is meant for a 4x5 mat. That was using to double mat some things. So I'm actually going to come out a little bit more. I'm going to come out to, I think, 4 1/4 by 5 1/4. Let me see what I think of that. Is that going to be too much? That might be, I'm going to come out a little bit more than that. I'm going to come out to 3/8, 4 3/8, and then cut it to 5 3/8. We'll see what that looks like. Well, I grabbed the wrong photo when I cut that. That's way too big. Okay. I really only needed this to be 4 1/8. So I'm going to cut off 1/4 inch. 4 1/8 by 5 1/8. This gives me a little bit more than 1/4 inch all the way around. Is that right? Yeah, a little bit more. No, a little bit more than 1/8 inch all the way around. Not quite 1/4 inch. I don't need that yellow to be super bold. But just enough. And now I do need something over here that is Kevin holding these the green onions. And I think maybe what I'll do, This photo is going to get trimmed down. It's too big. I'm going to trim this down to about 3, and I'm going to go with 3.5 initially. I think I'll actually be able to bring it down to 3.25 if I needed to. It's going to be 3.5 by 3.5. Okay, so if I go in here and I start looking at my colors, because I could come in with the chocolate, the dark, the hot fudge again. I've already punched my border. I could come into that. The downside to that is I think it starts to get a little muddied up here, just because I've already got so much there. So I'm thinking maybe what I'll do is I could come in with a third color for the for that square, for that mat. Get that put in place so it stops bothering me. So what I do, this is great. If you guys don't have this, you need a swatch. You need a cardstock swatch. I could come back to my designer paper. There is this kind of a tomato red, brighter color. I could come in here with this, but I think that's just a little too close, and it clashes a little bit with the darker red with the chickens. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm thinking I'm going to go with an orange. So I could come in with pumpkin, but I think I'm going to come in, oh, I had another color. I don't think I have all of my, I really like orange shimmer. That orange shimmer would look good. The pumpkin, I have marmalade. I've apparently taken these things apart. The first place to go is always your scrap. Look through your scraps. Maybe you've got a color in there. This is marmalade. I don't think it's the right color. It's a little too intense. I may have to go with this is pumpkin. This is where you get to see how picky I can be on colors. Well, I think it's going to have to be pumpkin because I am not seeing, I thought I had one more color of orange that was a little less intense even than, or is this it? I think that's, this is cider. Actually, this looks more like marmalade. Some of these colors were really, really, really close to each other. Yeah, this is marmalade. I kind of like marmalade. I feel like it matches the pumpkins or the carrots a little bit more. So that's what I'm going to use. I'm going to go ahead and use marmalade. And I'm going to cut, this was a, like I said, 3.5-inch photo. So I'm going to cut a square that is 3 7/8 inch. 3 7/8 inch. My scrap was not big enough. 3 7/8. Yeah, I do get a little picky with my colors. I don't know. It's how I get sometimes. So I do appreciate, I gobble up anytime we have any kind of cardstock buffet. I am all over it. Any kind of paper, the solid core papers, the cardstock paper buffets, the shimmer papers. I just love those. I grab those up. I put them in my stash. And then I get really, really sad when there's certain colors that I end up using all the time and then they run out of them. Okay, you guys can't really see there, but see, I've got those colors in. Now, one of my goals when doing my accessory, my embellishments here, I'm gonna wanna try to bring some of that yellow down and that orange down into the corner here. So I've got stickers that I'll be able to use. Now, the one thing I should note, my parents do not live on a farm. My parents live in the country. There are, I think for tax purposes, they live on a farm. I mean, from the standpoint of like they have 10 acres, it's considered a farm. But my parents don't actually farm. My grandparents farmed, but my parents do not. And so some of the things when they say, you know, farm, sweet farm, to me is like, this isn't a farm. So I will be able to use those in another way, but I'm going to be going with something like locally grown. I can maybe say farm fresh because it does feel like I'm just out of the garden, but some of the other things here, I will be using those more so than any of the farm specific stuff. It's just my personal preference. So I did like this locally grown sticker. It is green. So I want to maybe keep it away from the green background. So it could come over like on this side. I have the little sunshine I was going to put in there. There is the embellishments that go with this on the farm, the little mini embellishment pack. I do have that I could choose some things out of. My parents they don't really have a barn. I mean, really what this should be here, there should be a car that you can see inside this thing because my parents built a big shed that my dad has his workshop in and his old car that he's been perpetually working on. I say that in all the loving words that I can, but it's kind of funny. It's a big funny thing in my family, my dad and his hobby, his project car. I don't know if any of you have husbands or fathers siblings that have those project cars. My dad has a project car. It was his first car that he ever bought. The car that my parents, they bought brand new in 1971. This matches the shape, but I think it's too big. I think it's too much white around it. I wish it filled up better, but it doesn't. So I'm going to go ahead and start putting my papers down. Mary's saying her husband has 2 project cars. Oh, I think my mother, well, okay, I'll tell you back. My father had 2 project cars because when you have one project car, sometimes you have to go buy the really big junker of the same car because it's your parts car, right? You have to have a parts car. So that may not be what your husband has, Mary, but my dad had his project car, and then he had a parts car that had a few things like, I think he took the seats out of the project car because it had bucket seats and my dad had a bench seat. So he wanted the bucket seats. So that's what he did. I mean, it's pretty funny. I cannot wait for him to eventually have that ready to go. It'll be quite the thing in the family when my dad is able to drive that car. This photo, I don't necessarily have to have it overlapping. I may not have it overlapping by much because I am going to have that peekaboo pocket that's going to come in. Great thing about this particular paper is this green has a bit of a grid pattern to it. So I'm using that grid pattern to help me line up my photos, keep them straight. I do need to keep in mind that I will have a peekaboo pocket on here. So if I'm putting things on, I need to make sure that is, well, just kept in mind. I don't want to overlap things too much. My peekaboo will go right here. So I don't want to overlap into this photo because that will not be seen. Now, the other thing I didn't do, because I kind of forgot about it, was if I didn't make that decision, if I wanted to put on that border. Remember I talked about using that border in there? I don't know. I'm not sold on it. The red doesn't quite match. I think it's a little too distracting. It's a little too much. What do you guys think? I think I can just lay it on there gently and you guys can get an idea of what that looks like. Does it need to have that border there? I mean, up close, it's kind of cute. Is that too cutesy? Yeah, okay. I'm going to say in here, and as I think about it, the reason I'm not going to use the border is because this is going to go in my son's album. And I think if he was still 5, it would be, I'd probably go, but I'm thinking of this as imagining my 20-year-old looking through this, and he's going to be like, yeah, I'm good, Mom. Thanks. You don't need to cutes it up too much. All right. So, do you guys ever it's a sticker. It's a sticker. Sometimes I wish it was an embellishment because then I could just lay it there and play around with it a little bit more. Do I like that where it's going? You know, I want to include this. And maybe I'll just include that up there. I want to include, but it's a sticker. And stickers are so permanent. I do sometimes put on, I will put foam tape on the back of, or the foam dots, because you can just kind of play around with it a little more. I know you can use things like, I think, was it baking soda would be a good one to use because it's not, if you use cornstarch, that people say to deaden the back, it can be a little bit rough because cornstarch may attract bugs, whereas baking soda will not. So I could dust it with baking soda so that I have that flexibility. It becomes more like an embellishment, but then I have the loveliness of trying to get it to stick back to the paper. Maybe I'll just come over here and look, I can put that little sticker there. This is happy. I should probably, they have one on here. Oh, it says chore time. That's probably what I should label down here because I think they're weeding. I mean, yeah, they're weeding. My mom is showing my son the joys of weeding, and I think I will. I'll put that, it's chore time, because they were weeding that garden. But he was happy. He was super excited that he got to bring in the green onions. I don't think he ate any of them. I'm just going to commit. We're going to put locally grown there. I do have some space over here, but probably what I'll be able to do if I want to, I'll have journaling under there. And I might have to play around with it a little bit more and see what I've got. I've got the tools. Those would be kind of cute to use. I cannot break. The tools would be cute, and then have the little basket. But again, I've got to be careful just because I do not want to, I don't want to cover up where I'm going to have the peekaboo. My parents don't have any animals. They don't have any chickens or anything there. So those are going to have to be saved for like a petting zoo or you know, like one of the little farms you visit where you can like pet the animals. I might be able to get away with a milk can back there. All right, well, I'm probably going to leave it here and hem and haw and deliberate all of this off camera because this gets in, like I said, into that nitty gritty where I get to be a little bit picky on what I want to include. I'm just looking through my options. If I come in down here at the bottom, I sometimes am challenged a little bit because I struggle with when you have white stickers that going with stickers that don't have the white outline. I'm going to admit that's always been something I struggle with. So we will see. I may have to make some adjustments to that. Maybe I won't use the Or maybe I will see if there's another one that doesn't have the white outline. I'll play around with it a little bit. What I am going to do here though, I have found I like when I'm still messing around, I don't know what I'm doing, I use my silicone mat and stick my stickers on my silicone mat. They're just in a holding spot right now, and I'll come back and figure this all out, the little details. I just need something down in this little area so that So I do see a quick question. Deborah's asking about the peekaboo. So the peekaboo pocket, it's going to be a 4x6, and I'm using a 4x6 photo, so you actually won't see anything. The red mat will still show through. The only difference you're going to see is right now it's set up, it would overlap a little bit here onto this yellow mat. So what I need to do is I need something when I open it up that you will see some journaling. So there's some mats in here that I could choose from that have journal. Like if I wanted to come in and use a red mat, I could use one of those. They have a green mat that has, they do have this really fun sunflowers, but I think that's a little bit much. So I have to figure that out, what I'm going to include. There's one that has a quilt pattern to it. And oh, there's the cow print. The cow print is fun, but they don't have cows. My grandpa was a dairy farmer for a while. I will probably use this green one. I have a feeling that's what's going to be. This green mat will be on the inside of the peekaboo pocket. So when you open it up, you'll see this green oval, and I'll have the journaling there. I could also come in with a little bit of stickers or so forth to kind of decorate the inside of this if I want to. The other option would be is just to use cardstock behind here and grab some journal paper and do that as well. So you don't necessarily have to use one of the mats. So that will be, I'll get all those details kind of figured out. I gotta love stickers. All right. So I think that's good for the moment. I'm going to figure out all the rest of the details. I'll have a photo for you so you guys can see. Seriously, sometimes I just have to walk away from it for a little while, or I have to dig through the rest of my stuff, and maybe there will be, I mean, we had a couple other collections, and we have like the locally, I think it was called Locally Grown. It was a little more pinks. And then we had another one called Made with Love. And so I have those. I just need to go dig them out. They would be that are more, you know, that kind of stuff that would maybe have, I know Made with Love has a lot of similar colors. It might work, have something in there. And then the Locally Grown has the veggies and such. There might be something in there that I could use. So I'll dig around and see what I find. The other option is to, I don't know, I'll figure it out. So thanks so much for joining me. I don't have any big announcements. Well, the only announcement I have is this Friday. It's going to be Preview Friday. What it's going to be, I don't know. So we will see. We are due for a secret box. I have a feeling we're going to see the secret box as part of the November crop rather than the December crop, but we will see. That could be coming. So just pay, I'll have it all announced on my Facebook page. It comes out, the information come out around 10 o'clock Pacific time on Friday. Sometimes they're a little bit later with that, depending on how much information they need to squeeze into the email that they send to advisors. But you should start hearing more about that on Friday with all the new products for mid-October. So we also maybe we'll see some stuff for the happy albums. I know a lot of people got a resurgence of interest in the happy albums. It's 6 3/4 by 10 inches tall photos, art albums. And typically in October, we do see a new set of stuff for that. So maybe that's what we'll see. I don't know. It's pure speculation. It's kind of fun to think about and kind of guess and like find out, oh, am I right? Am I wrong? I don't know. So virtual crop is this Friday. So there'll be 4 layouts and should be a lot of fun. I believe they had an email that came out that for advisors that it talked about one of the things they're going to do for the virtual crop is I think they're going to be doing stuff with 8x8 custom albums, the paper albums. So if you've never had a chance to play with those, this will be the crop that you will definitely want to pay attention to. They're going to have some information about that. And I'm trying to think what else I have recently heard about. I don't know. Sounds good there. So This upcoming Friday is a product, and then I believe the next one will be after the weekend before Halloween. There is actually, I think November will actually launch the very, very last Monday of October. I think that's when we should see it. I don't know for sure. So I do see a quick question about hashtag. I don't have it on the handout because I was just using an old handout. Hashtag you'll want to use is Scrapbook Live 1011 for October 11th. And if you want to post them into the Scrapbooking with Meggan group, that would be fantastic. I cannot wait to see what papers you guys have chosen, how you've embellished, how you did your photos, all that fun stuff. Of course, you know, this layout, the background is one thing. You can, and once you get your background done, you can expand it, or you can, you know, arrange your photos as it works. I do have on there the little detail. If you do need to expand this into a second page, you would just need to work in the lower right-hand corner. We worked mostly with the upper left-hand corner, and that's where our triangle was. But if you want to expand it to 2 pages, you can work in the lower left-hand corner or lower right-hand corner and have it those decorative corners on opposite sides. So a question I see also about when is October Power Hour. Thank you so much for saying that. So Kelly is correct. It is October 17th. That is coming next week. I probably should work on that project. So if you have attended a Power Hour in the past, you do not need to register. You will get that handout information on Monday, the 16th. If you've never registered or don't even know what Power Hour is, it's a monthly scrapbook class that I do with Tessa Chappell. We've been doing it now for 3 years. Oh yeah, this is our big birthday one, the 3rd birthday of Power Hour. So it should be fun. We will have a jolly old time. Maybe I'll see if I can send Tessa some new headwear. I'm gonna have to go look on Amazon and see what I can find. That's always fun to see what I can convince her to wear on screen. So, all right, everybody take care. I will see you guys at Power Hour next week. And then of course, again for Scrapbook Live. All right, take care. Enjoy your weekend.